do you want?
What do I want?
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
From the moment Marvel Studios announced Avengers, Doomsday, the global audience felt an electricity that rippled far beyond the usual excitement surrounding blockbuster films. This was not simply another chapter in a long-running franchise, it was positioned as a turning point, a convergence of storylines stretching across decades of superhero cinema, merging universes once separated by licensing walls, and reshaping the emotional and thematic DNA of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The announcement alone rewrote expectations, because it suggested a narrative so large, so interconnected, and so consequential that only the collective histories of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Wakanda, and the cosmic realms could carry its weight. For the first time in years, fans recognized the promise of a new cinematic event that could echo the monumental scale of Infinity War and Endgame, yet carve out an entirely unique identity built on fresh stakes, unexpected alliances, and the rise of a villain unmatched in intellect and ambition. What makes the story of Avengers, Doomsday particularly compelling is not merely the scale, but the circumstances that led to its conception. The film was originally shaped around the Kang Dynasty storyline, one that Marvel had spent years seeding through their Disney Plus series and theatrical releases. But the landscape shifted dramatically when Jonathan Majors, who portrayed Kang, exited the franchise. Instead of collapsing under the weight of this change, Marvel restructured its vision entirely, stepping into a braver and more unpredictable direction, the rise of Victor Von Doom. And with that shift came one of the most shocking casting decisions in franchise history, Robert Downey Jr., the man whose performance as Tony Stark built the foundation of the MCU, returning not as a hero but as its darkest threat. This creative gamble instantly transformed expectations. The legacy of Tony Stark, intertwined with the emotional memory of millions of fans, now stands in stark contrast to the cold brilliance of Doom, creating a psychological complexity that resonates deep within the Marvel mythos. The film brings viewers into a world already trembling under a sense of cosmic unease. The aftermath of multiversal fractures, temporal distortions, and the consequences of meddling with reality linger like invisible scars around every corner of existence. Loki's sacrifice, the disruptions caused by the Avengers' actions during the Infinity Saga, and the new threats introduced in previous films all contribute to an atmosphere of imbalance. The universe feels stretched thin, as though reality itself has become a fragile tapestry pulled in conflicting directions. It is within this vulnerable environment that Doom emerges, not as a chaotic force like Thanos, nor as a time-centric threat like Kang, but as a sovereign intellect who sees the cracks in the multiverse not as dangers, but as opportunities. The narrative suggests that Doom's rise is not born from madness, but from a terrifyingly rational worldview. He believes the universe requires discipline, order, and a singular guiding hand, his own. Rooted in the dual strengths of science and sorcery, Doom represents an enemy who can outthink the Avengers, outmaneuver their technology, and outmatch their defenses. The convergence of mysticism and hyper-advanced engineering within Doom's arsenal challenges the heroes in ways they have never confronted. His motivations are grounded not in destruction for its own sake but in the reformation of existence under a philosophy he sees as necessary. This combination of intellect, charisma, and danger positions him as the most formidable villain the MCU has ever faced. The world begins to unravel slowly at first. Events that seem isolated and coincidental gradually reveal their interconnectedness. Unexplained energy surges ripple across continents. Nations with access to advanced technology detect patterns hinting at a hidden power source radiating from outside their usual frameworks. Wakanda registers quantum anomalies deep beneath the oceans, the remnants of Stark Industries' AI networks pick up encrypted transmissions too advanced to trace, and sorcerers at Kamartaj report distortions in the metaphysical currents that govern magic itself. Each of these disturbances points to a single architect, yet none of the heroes recognize the signs early enough to respond. Doom moves with precision, exploiting political tensions, dismantling defenses from afar, and manipulating events that bring global superpowers into conflict, all part of a broader plan that only he fully understands. The Avengers are scattered across the world, each dealing with their own burdens and legacies. Sam Wilson, now carrying the mantle of Captain America, struggles with the weight of responsibility, knowing that every decision he makes is compared to that of the man who came before him. Thor grapples with existential fatigue, feeling the echoes of loss and change that shadow his long life. Shuri, recently stepping into the role of Black Panther, balances her duties as queen with the expectations of her people and the scientific challenges that never cease to evolve. Meanwhile, characters like Ant-Man, Loki, and Bucky Barnes face personal consequences of their past choices, trying to find clarity in lives that have been shaped by endless battles. Across the multiverse, echoes of earlier conflicts tremble. Worlds once visited by the Avengers show signs of destabilization. Realities that were once sealed begin to flicker at the edges. This widespread imbalance opens the door for the Fantastic Four to emerge from their long absence, bringing with them knowledge of cosmic phenomena far beyond Earth's understanding. Reed Richards, brilliant but burdened by the consequences of his own experiments, becomes one of the first to recognize that these disturbances are not random. Sue Storm senses a deeper threat lurking between dimensions. Johnny Storm approaches the unfolding events with reckless courage, while Ben Grimm grounds the team with his unshakable loyalty. Their return marks the beginning of a new era in which Earth's mightiest heroes are no longer a single team, but a coalition of extraordinary individuals drawn together by a shared necessity. The X-Men's involvement marks another seismic shift in the narrative. Charles Xavier, older and wiser, feels a disturbance in the psychic field that transcends ordinary threats. Magneto, long torn between his ideology and the hope for coexistence, recognizes that the impending conflict demands an alliance even he cannot oppose. Younger heroes like Storm, Beast, and others answer the call, bringing a new layer of depth to the unfolding crisis. For the first time in MCU history, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, and X-Men stand on the same battlefield, unified by the gravity of Doom's vision. Each group carries its own history, trauma, and internal conflicts, yet the looming threat renders their differences trivial next to the possibility of extinction. As Doom's influence expands, the world falls into a state of fearful anticipation. Skies darken with unnatural storms. Structures built with vibranium and stark-grade alloys show signs of decay, as though a foreign force is rewriting their atomic structures. Magical defenses crumble. Quantum fields flicker. Time behaves unpredictably. In Latveria, Doom's homeland, an impenetrable citadel rises like a monument to inevitability, powered by a fusion of arcane runes and machinery that seems alive. From this fortress, Doom observes the world with calm detachment, confident that no opposing force possesses the unity or vision required to stop him. And yet, despite the magnitude of the threat, the film's narrative is defined not only by spectacle but by emotional resonance. Each hero confronts the question of identity, legacy, and purpose. Loki grapples with the burden of his alternate self's sacrifice. Sam Wilson faces the expectations placed upon him as Captain America. Thor confronts the echoes of gods long gone. Shuri wrestles with the idea of leadership in a world that refuses stability. Reed Richards confronts the consequences of his relentless pursuit of knowledge. Professor X reevaluates the purpose of his dream. Every character is pushed to the edge of their beliefs, forced to re-examine who they are in a universe losing its balance. The world senses Doom's presence before many even know his name. There is a heaviness in the air, a subtle but persistent pressure, like the calm before a monstrous storm that never seems to break, yet grows more intense with every passing moment. People describe vivid dreams of metallic structures rising into darkened skies, of a masked figure whose eyes burn with a cold, unyielding conviction. Farmers speak of crops withering overnight. Satellites lose connection for seconds at a time, always at perfectly calculated intervals. Animals move in erratic migration patterns without explanation. Scientists dismiss these signs as coincidences until the anomalies become too synchronized, too intelligent, too intentional. Governments grow anxious. Superhero teams begin to mobilize, but by then Doom's influence has already woven itself into the fabric of the world. Amid all of this, Sam Wilson tries to hold on to the one thing that keeps him anchored, the belief that people can still unite. He carries the shield with a grip that sometimes tightens without him noticing, as if reminding himself that he must live up to a symbol he never asked for but now represents. He communicates with world leaders, trying to prevent panic, trying to give humanity a sense of hope. But even Sam can sense the unease creeping into every conversation. He knows that diplomacy cannot stop what is coming, but he also understands that unity is their only chance. His every word becomes a small act of resistance against the fear spreading across the globe. Thor, meanwhile, watches from a distance, not out of solitude, but out of contemplation. He stands on a quiet ridge overlooking a vast alien landscape on a distant world, his expression shadowed by memories that refuse to fade. He has fought gods, monsters, and cosmic beings, yet something about the current crisis feels different. It feels calculated rather than chaotic, destined rather than destructive. He can sense the echo of an approaching force that challenges even his godly instincts. The universe is whispering warnings, and Thor knows better than anyone that whispers always precede storms. He returns to Earth not because he must, but because something in him knows that the fight ahead will shape the very essence of the cosmos. In Wakanda, Shuri immerses herself in research, surrounded by holographic projections of fluctuating energy patterns that defy conventional logic. Her brilliant mind races to make sense of the quantum distortions, but every answer she uncovers opens 10 new questions. Vibranium behaves unpredictably in certain regions, as if responding to an unseen command. Ancient Wakandan texts reference celestial alignments and unknown sorcerers whose powers once threatened the balance of the world. Though she does not yet know it, the clues she uncovers lead directly toward Doom's emerging empire. Shuri feels the weight of responsibility pressing on her, not just as Black Panther, but as a leader tasked with safeguarding the most advanced nation on Earth in a moment when technology alone may not be enough. At the Sanctum in New York, sorcerers assemble in uneasy silence as Wong studies disturbances that ripple through mystical layers of reality. The air hums with unnatural energy. Spells that once flowed like water now feel brittle and unstable. Wong reaches out across dimensions, trying to understand the source, only to encounter a presence that feels like a fortress of intellect surrounded by layers of arcane mastery. It is as though someone is rewriting the laws of magic from outside the system, bending the metaphysical currents into shapes they were never meant to hold. The name Doom is whispered among the apprentices, though they know little of who he is. But Wong understands better than anyone that the multiverse rarely whispers without reason. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four return from a mission at the edge of the cosmos, bringing with them more questions than answers. They have seen fragments of collapsing realities, universes folding inward like dying stars, and distortions that resemble fingerprints left behind by an unseen architect. Reed Richards, exhausted but driven, believes that the anomalies form a pattern, one that suggests deliberate manipulation. Sue Storm senses a looming presence watching them from beyond the barriers of space-time. Johnny approaches the situation with fiery determination, masking his fear with bravado. Ben Grimm simply knows that when Reed gets that look in his eyes, the universe is in deeper trouble than anyone realizes. Together, they head toward Earth, unaware that their involvement is part of a much larger equation Doom has already anticipated. Across the world, the X-Men respond to psychic tremors that reverberate through the minds of mutants everywhere. Charles Xavier feels the disturbance like a blade against his consciousness. The psychic field ripples in unnatural waves, as though someone is tapping into the collective consciousness of humanity. Magneto feels the pull as well, recognizing that the energy distorting the world carries a resonance that vibrates through even the metal around him. It is not chaos, it is command. Charles and Eric, long divided by ideology and history, both sense an enemy whose will threatens the dream they've spent lifetimes fighting for. They know that the coming conflict transcends mutant and human affairs, it threatens the existence of every sentient being. As the heroes assemble from every corner of the world and beyond, Doom remains untouched by their efforts. He watches from Latveria, seated upon a throne forged from a fusion of technology and ancient sorcery. His consciousness extends through networks of enchanted machinery, observing global movements with precision. He is not threatened. He has planned for resistance. In his mind, every hero stepping forward is nothing more than a variable in an equation he has already solved. Doom sees himself not as a destroyer, but as a savior of the multiverse, a savior whose vision requires sacrifice, order, and absolute authority. But beneath the armor, beneath the mask, beneath the grandeur of his ambition, there lies something more personal. Something rooted in loss, in tragedy, in obsession. Doom is not driven by malice alone. He is driven by a belief so deeply embedded in his being that he cannot, will not, consider any alternative. His heart once held compassion. His mind once sought knowledge for the sake of bettering his people. But the universe, in its chaotic cruelty, took from him more than he could bear. In response, Doom constructed a new philosophy, one in which emotion is weakness, chaos is the enemy, and control is the only path to salvation. In the twisted logic of his worldview, he truly believes that by conquering the universe, he is saving it. As tensions rise across the world, the atmosphere thickens with a sensation that feels almost supernatural, as if the universe itself is holding its breath. The heroes who once operated in separate lanes now feel the gravitational pull of an impending confrontation that draws them together whether they are prepared or not. The Avengers begin to regroup in a facility that once bustled with confidence and innovation, but now echoes with the weight of uncertainty. Sam Wilson walks through the halls, meeting faces old and new, each carrying their own brand of determination mixed with silent fear. There's a shared recognition among them all, something far greater than any individual threat they've faced is coming, and none of them can yet see the full shape of it. Bucky Barnes arrives with a quiet intensity, masking his lingering guilt behind a stoic expression. He carries scars, emotional more than physical, that remind him every day of the lives he affected under Hydra's control. But he also carries a sense of purpose now, and it is that purpose that drives him forward when the world needs him most. As he and Sam exchange a wordless nod, the two men reaffirm the bond that's been forged through battles, betrayals, and rebuilding trust. They know that unity will be their greatest weapon, even in a world more fractured than ever. Elsewhere, Loki finds himself standing between two versions of who he once was. The memory of his alternate self sacrificed during the collapse of the sacred timeline lingers like a ghost in his mind. He is torn between the mischievous tendencies that shaped his identity and the compassion he now feels tugging at the edges of his heart. For the first time, Loki contemplates what heroism truly means, not as a performance or a strategic illusion, but as a choice born from deep vulnerability. The cracks in the fabric of reality resonate with an energy that Loki recognizes instinctively. He understands that magic this powerful, this complex, does not arise naturally. It is crafted. It is controlled. And the signature is unmistakable. Doom's influence is seeping into the foundations of existence, and Loki knows that even a god must tread carefully against such a force. As the heroes converge, Reed Richards begins briefing the growing assembly, his voice carrying the rapid rhythm of a mind racing far ahead of the world around him. He projects holograms of quantum distortions, cosmic vibrations, and dimensional stress points that circle the Earth like invisible scars. His explanation is complex, layered with equations and theories that border on incomprehensible to all but the brightest minds in the room. Yet the conclusion is painfully simple: the multiverse is unraveling in a pattern that suggests sentient manipulation. Doom is not merely destabilizing reality, he is reshaping it according to a grand design. Sue Storm watches Reed with affection tinged by concern. She has always admired his brilliance, but she also knows how deeply his obsession with finding answers can consume him. She understands that Reed sees Doom not only as an adversary, but as a mirror of what he could become if pushed too far. Both men are geniuses, both driven by loss, both fueled by an unquenchable desire to protect the world. The difference is that Reed understands the value of teamwork and compassion, while Doom has allowed his grief to metastasize into tyranny. Sue senses the emotional stakes rising as they move closer to confronting Victor, once Reed's peer, now his greatest threat. Johnny Storm, on the other hand, processes the situation with fire crackling faintly along his fingertips. His instincts push him toward action rather than analysis. Waiting feels like suffocation. Johnny is not blind to the seriousness of their enemy, but he hides his apprehension beneath layers of humor and bravado. He knows that the darkest moments often require the brightest flames, and he is determined to be one of the sparks that keeps hope alive. Ben Grimm remains grounded, his posture steady and immovable. While others speak in rapid scientific jargon or mystical references, Ben listens with quiet focus. He may not understand the advanced physics Reed discusses, but he understands danger, loyalty, and the importance of standing firm when the world begins to shake. And right now, everything feels like it's shaking. In another corner of the room, Professor Xavier and Magneto stand side by side, a sight that would once have been unthinkable. The years have not softened either of them, but the gravity of the situation has drawn them into a truce that runs deeper than words. Charles feels the psychic tension of millions of minds repeating the same silent question: what is happening to our world? Eric senses the magnetic field shifting around the planet, bending in ways that defy natural phenomena. Both men understand that Doom's rise threatens everything they've devoted their lives to: mutants, humans, and the delicate dream of coexistence. Magneto's voice carries low and firm as he speaks to the room, warning them of the type of enemy they are facing. Doom is not a creature of impulse. He is not governed by rage or chaos. He moves with purpose, with strategy, and with unwavering conviction. That makes him far more dangerous than any brute force they've ever fought. Charles emphasizes that this crisis requires more than power, it requires unity of spirit and clarity of vision. For the first time, the mutants stand not as outsiders or protectors of their own kind, but as allies in the broader fight for survival. While the heroes gather, Doom's grand design accelerates. From his citadel in Latveria, he activates devices that tap into the primal forces of the multiverse. These machines hum with a harmony that blends technology and sorcery, creating a resonance that vibrates across dimensions. The skies shift as if the atmosphere itself acknowledges Doom's dominion. Lightning bends unnaturally around his fortress. Time itself seems to tick differently within its walls. Inside the heart of his stronghold, Doom stands before a monolithic structure etched with symbols older than recorded history, symbols that pulse in sync with the quantum energy running through the machinery. His cape rustles in a wind that seems generated by the sheer intensity of his presence. And yet Doom is not without reflection. Beneath the mask lies a man who once sought only to save his mother from forces beyond mortal comprehension. A man who studied the arcane arts not for power, but for answers. A man whose genius set him apart long before his armor became legendary. His path from Victor Von Doom to Dr. Doom is a journey paved with sacrifice, betrayal, and the belief that humanity, left to its own devices, will always descend into chaos. He sees the Avengers as symbols of disorder, each one embodying the unpredictable nature of free will. To Doom, the world does not need heroes. It needs a ruler. This belief is what sets him in direct philosophical opposition to the assembled heroes. Their strength lies in their differences, in their ability to overcome conflict through unity rather than domination. Doom, however, sees unity as a weakness, a temporary illusion shattered by the first crack of disobedience. His empire is built on the premise that control is the only path to peace. And so the stage is set. The world stands on the edge of something unimaginable, with heroes assembling for a confrontation that will define their legacies. The air vibrates with tension. Latveria's skies glow with ominous energy. The multiverse shudders. And every living soul feels a pressure in their chest, a sense that everything they know, everything they've fought for, is hanging by a thread woven into Doom's hand. As the uneasy calm stretches across the globe, the heroes gather in a sprawling command center deep within the newly fortified Avengers facility. The atmosphere is thick with tension, but beneath it is a shared sense of resolve. The combination of minds, abilities, and experiences present in the room is unlike anything the world has witnessed. It is a coalition born not of convenience, but of necessity. The stakes are too high for personal histories to matter. Every hero understands that the coming battle will test not only their powers, but their very beliefs. Sam Wilson steps forward, the iconic shield resting against his forearm. His voice is steady, but his eyes carry the weight of a man who knows the cost of leadership. He addresses the assembly not with the authority of a super soldier or a god, but with the grounded sincerity of someone who believes in what humanity can become. Sam acknowledges the complexity of their situation, the forces beyond their understanding, and the mistakes that have fractured their trust in institutions. But he reminds them that the world has survived countless threats because people chose to stand together. The shield he carries is no longer a symbol of one man's legacy, it is a beacon for anyone willing to fight for hope when the darkness seems overwhelming. Thor moves closer to the center, the faint crackle of thunder humming in the air around him. Even without words, his presence anchors the room. He carries centuries of experience, scars from battles waged across realms, and a deep understanding of cosmic forces at play. Thor tells them that Doom is not merely a tyrant or a sorcerer, he is someone who has studied the very fabric of existence with the conviction of a creator. Thor speaks of prophecies whispered among the gods, tales of a mortal who would rise to challenge the heavens themselves. Whether Doom is that figure or not, Thor does not know, but he recognizes the scope of the battle they now face. In the corner, Loki listens quietly, his expression unreadable. His thoughts flicker between self-doubt and determination. He recalls the moment his alternate self chose sacrifice, a moment that fundamentally rewired his understanding of heroism. Loki questions whether he is capable of such a choice, whether redemption is within reach or merely an illusion he longs to grasp. But as he observes the growing fear and hope mingling in the room, Loki realizes that the universe no longer cares about his past, it demands his decision in the present. He straightens, not as the god of mischief, but as a man who sees the value in standing beside others for something greater than himself. As Reed Richards takes the floor once more, the holographic projection behind him expands dramatically, illustrating the full extent of Doom's multiversal interference. Reed reveals that Doom has found a way to manipulate the very foundation of parallel realities, not by destabilizing them, but by chaining them together. His machines operate like anchors, linking multiple universes into a single network that feeds energy into a central core housed within Latveria. This process, if completed, will give Doom access to a form of power that transcends all known forms of science and magic. Reed's tone is laced with urgency, but also with guilt. He knows that Doom's genius is a dark reflection of his own, shaped by loss and hardened by obsession. Reed cannot help but wonder if he had taken different paths, whether he might have become the same. Sue senses this internal conflict and speaks gently, grounding Reed with a steadying presence. She reminds the room that Doom's brilliance was never the problem, it was the isolation that nurtured it. Heroes are shaped not only by hardship, but by the support of those who stand beside them. Sue's voice carries the warmth of someone who has seen countless battles but has never lost faith in the goodness of people. Her words ripple through the assembly, offering a momentary pause in the storm of scientific complexities. Johnny Storm steps forward next, energy crackling lightly around him. His approach lacks Reed's precision or Sue's composure, but his courage is unwavering. Johnny speaks bluntly about fear, the kind that eats at the edges of your resolve when the stakes rise into the stratosphere. He tells them that fear is natural, but surrender is a choice. And none of them in that room are the type to surrender. He ignites momentarily, the flames casting orange reflections across the metallic surfaces of the chamber, serving as a symbolic promise, where there is darkness, even a single spark can create light. Ben Grimm follows, his rocky exterior illuminated by the soft glow of the room's lighting. He speaks simply, without theatrics or self-importance. Ben reminds them that they've faced impossible odds before, and while this enemy may be different, their courage is the same. His calm, grounded demeanor reassures even the most anxious heroes in the crowd. Ben does not need elaborate speeches, his presence is a testament to resilience. Across the assembly, Magneto steps forward, his gaze sweeping the room with regal intensity. He speaks of the human tendency to squander freedom and the fragility of order. He acknowledges that Doom's ideology, twisted as it is, contains a shard of truth. The world is flawed. Humanity is flawed. But the answer is not domination. The answer is growth, understanding, and change. Magneto has long believed that strength is the only language power respects, and so he pledges that he will stand with the heroes not for recognition or redemption, but for survival. Professor Xavier follows, projecting his calm empathy outward like a soft breeze soothing a raging fire. He touches upon the interconnectedness of all life, reminding the room that they fight not just for their world, but for countless others entwined in Doom's multiversal web. Charles's voice carries a powerful serenity, reminding the heroes that unity is not a strategy, it is a necessity. His words settle like a deep breath in the hearts of everyone present. As the assembly concludes, the heroes disperse to prepare for the coming confrontation. Some sharpen their weapons. Others meditate. Some share quiet conversations, reaffirming bonds forged through years of triumph and tragedy. The facility hums with purposeful energy, filled with the sounds of machinery, footsteps, and whispered determination. Meanwhile, in his citadel, Doom finishes the next phase of his design. His machines pulse with increasing intensity as the universes begin to bend under his influence. He stands alone in the heart of the chamber, illuminated by the cold glow of the multiversal core. He places his gauntlet hand upon the central console, feeling the hum of infinite power vibrating through the armor. Doom closes his eyes for a moment, not in hesitation, but in acceptance. He believes utterly in the righteousness of his cause. The world may call him a tyrant, a monster, a madman. But he knows the truth. He is the only one willing to do what must be done. Outside the citadel, the sky darkens unnaturally, swirling in patterns that resemble both storm clouds and cosmic rifts. The ground trembles with each expansion of Doom's influence. Latveria transforms into a fortress state, its borders protected by barriers of energy and steel. Doom's loyal subjects watch in silence, caught between awe and fear. They have seen Doom bring prosperity. They have seen him protect them from threats no other nation could even comprehend. To them, Doom is not a villain. He is a savior. As the pulse from Doom's machines echoes across the globe, every hero feels it. Magic flickers. Technology falters. The air vibrates with a frequency that seems to resonate with the very bones of the earth. This is not the beginning of the battle. The moment Doom's pulse spreads across the earth, the planet reacts like a living organism struck by a sudden shockwave. Power grids flicker, oceans churn with unnatural tides, birds scatter in chaotic patterns, and millions of people freeze in place as the ground shivers beneath their feet. It is not destruction, at least not yet. It is a message. A proclamation. A demonstration of the precision and magnitude of Doom's reach. The world understands instantly, instinctively, that something far beyond human comprehension has awakened. In the Avengers facility, alarms blare as data streams begin to distort. Screens glitch with unfamiliar symbols, sigils of Doom's design, appearing for mere milliseconds before vanishing. Even the most advanced Stark design systems stutter under the weight of the multiversal interference. Specialists scramble to stabilize communications, but the interference is alive, adapting, shifting in real time. Reed Richards monitors the patterns, his eyes narrowing as he recognizes the frightening sophistication behind every wave of distortion. Doom is testing them. Mapping their responses. Learning their weaknesses. Sam Wilson steadies himself as the tremors fade, nodding to the operatives struggling at their stations. He moves quickly, asserting command not through volume, but through calm clarity. He instructs the team to run full diagnostics, reroute secure channels, and prepare defensive protocols across all allied nations. His voice acts as a stabilizing force in the midst of chaos. The shield at his side glints faintly, catching reflections of flickering lights, as if echoing the wavering state of the world itself. Thor grips Stormbreaker tightly, sensing the cosmic disruption in every molecule of the air around him. He knows power when he feels it, and this is not the reckless energy of a raging titan or the wild fury of dark gods. This is measured. Controlled. As deliberate as the ticking of a countdown. Thor's jaw tightens. He has known countless conquerors, but Doom's precision unsettles him in a way few enemies ever have. It is the calmness of Doom's ambition that feels most dangerous, the certainty with which he wields the forces of creation and destruction alike. Loki steps back, his gaze darting across the malfunctioning screens as he senses the magical resonance beneath the technological chaos. He feels the pulse reverberate through the strands of existence, each echo carrying Doom's unmistakable signature. It is magic intertwined with science in a way that even Loki finds unsettling. He mutters under his breath, half to himself, half to the lingering memory of the version of him who gave everything to preserve the multiverse. Loki cannot help but feel the chilling contrast, where his other self sought to protect the timeline at all costs, Doom seeks to claim it. In Wakanda, Shuri's lab shakes as holographic projections distort wildly. Her instruments fail to reconcile the data, quantum fields collapsing and reforming, vibranium reacting like a tuning fork struck by an unseen hand. She stares at the readings with a mixture of fascination and dread. Doom's pulse did not simply disrupt technology, it communicated with it. As if the vibranium itself recognized his command. Shuri steadies her breath and begins recalibrating her scanners, knowing she must outthink a mind just as sharp as her own. Wakanda's defenses shift to full alert. Warriors, scientists, and diplomats all prepare for a crisis unlike any they've encountered. In Kamartaj, a ripple tears through the fabric of mystical wards that have stood for centuries. Candles extinguish themselves. Spell sigils flicker like broken holograms. Wong rushes into the chamber, feeling the shift like a tremor in his bloodstream. He knows that this is no mere magical phenomenon, this is a rewriting of metaphysical rules themselves. Doom has reached into the mystic domain and bent it, not through brute force, but through controlled influence. Wong summons the sorcerers, each preparing for a confrontation that may blur the lines between the physical and the arcane. Across the world, the Fantastic Four react instantly. Johnny ignites without hesitation, flaming into the air as if ready to confront whatever force approaches. Ben plants himself in a defensive stance, his massive form steady against the trembling ground. Sue expands a glowing barrier around them, her instincts honed after years of facing the unknown. Reed's mind races as he analyzes the pulse, mapping its points of origin and its dispersal pattern. His conclusion is immediate and chilling. Doom is signaling the stabilization of Phase 1 of his multiversal design. This pulse is not an attack, it is a stage marker. A step completed. The X-Men feel the impact in a way others cannot. Charles Xavier gasps as the psychic field vibrates with overwhelming force. It is not an assault on his mind, but a shockwave across all consciousness. Millions of thoughts ripple through him, fear, confusion, awe, all blending into a psychic storm he struggles to endure. Magneto senses magnetic fields around the world bending as if bowing to an unseen king. The metal framework of the mansion groans as though acknowledging Doom's expanding reach. Storm, Beast, Cyclops, and others gather, preparing for the inevitable call to action. And in Latveria, Doom stands unmoved as the pulse fades. The air around him hums with aftershocks. He raises a gloved hand, observing the faint crackles of multiversal energy dancing across his armor. He takes a slow, measured breath. The first phase is complete. The world now understands his capability. Fear is a tool, but respect, that is the beginning of order. Doom turns toward a hovering projection sphere, its surface shimmering with live feeds from around the globe. He watches the heroes scrambling, analyzing, preparing. He studies their movements with the detached curiosity of a scientist observing patterns under a microscope. Every reaction confirms what he already calculated. They will unite. They will resist. They will fight because they believe they must. But Doom believes even more deeply that they are fighting the wrong enemy, not him, but their own chaos. In his mind, the heroes cling to ideals shaped by emotion and individual perspective. Their unity is temporary, unstable, liable to fracture under the slightest pressure. Doom sees their efforts as noble but misguided gestures toward a peace they can never maintain. He does not hate them for it. If anything, he admires their tenacity. But admiration does not change his conviction. To Doom, they are children trying to extinguish a wildfire with bare hands. As night falls across the world, a strange stillness settles. The planet feels suspended in an eerie pause, as if the very air is listening. Across continents and oceans, ordinary people sense something monumental looming beyond the horizon. Parents pull their children closer. Soldiers grip their weapons with tense hands. Citizens stare at their devices, waiting for news that never arrives fast enough. The pulse may have ended, but its echo lingers, a reminder of the unseen hand shaping their fate. Back at the Avengers facility, Sam, Reed, Thor, Shuri, Charles, Sue, and others gather once more. There is no panic in their expressions now, only clarity. Doom has drawn the first line. The responsibility of drawing the second falls to them. Reed outlines the patterns again, noting the points where Doom's machines connect to multiversal seams. Charles adds that the psychic resonance suggests Doom is tapping into the collective unconscious of multiple realities. Thor explains the cosmic implications. Shuri details the vibranium anomaly. Wong describes the mystical repercussions. The truth becomes clear: Doom is not just trying to conquer Earth. He is trying to align, and eventually control, every universe connected through the multiverse. As this realization settles over them, the world outside grows darker. Storm clouds gather over distant seas. The skies above Latveria swirl with impossible colors, like auroras forged from unnatural energy. The wind carries a low hum that feels alive. The earth trembles faintly, as if trying to warn the heroes of what is coming. Doom's next move is imminent. Night deepens across the world with an unnatural heaviness, as if the shadows themselves have thickened in anticipation of something colossal. Even the wind behaves differently, slower, deliberate, almost cautious. Animals stray from their natural patterns, birds avoid the skies, dogs whine at doorways, and wolves retreat into the depths of forests. Nature senses what humanity cannot fully comprehend: the multiverse is shifting, aligning itself with a force that has declared its presence with absolute certainty. Deep within Latveria, Doom ascends a massive, spiraling platform carved from a mixture of metal, stone, and arcane material. The platform rises into the open air, where the sky trembles with the afterglow of his pulse. Around him, intricate machinery hums softly, rotating with clockwork precision. Doom's armor glints as waves of multiversal energy reflect across its surface, bathing him in a kaleidoscope of shifting colors. He stands unmoving, sovereign, surveying the world he intends to reshape. A faint mechanical voice echoes beside him, a drone assistant constructed from materials not found on Earth. It projects streams of holographic data, marking planetary reactions, cosmic anomalies, and dimensional fluctuations created by the pulse. Doom's eyes trace each data point, committing every detail to memory. His plan is vast, intricate, and delicate. Every step must be executed with mathematical perfection. The pulse was only calibration. Now comes the progression. Across the globe, heroes brace for the unknown. In New York, Peter Parker swings between skyscrapers, observing the city that feels just slightly off. The lights flicker in patterns that don't match any electrical issue he's seen. He senses a tension in the atmosphere that prickles at his nerves. He lands on a rooftop, resting briefly as he gazes at the horizon, wondering if the others have felt the same shift. Peter is young, but he is far from naive. He knows when something is wrong. And everything feels wrong tonight. In Wakanda, Shuri stands before the vibranium mound, her hands pressed against the glowing surface. She feels the hum vibrating deep within the ore, pulsing in response to Doom's influence. The metal's resonance is inconsistent, sometimes harmonious, sometimes agitated, as though torn between two realities. Shuri closes her eyes, trying to decipher the message hidden in the vibrations. She knows vibranium's origins lie beyond simple terrestrial understanding. If Doom's energy has reached it, then his influence has seeped into the most ancient cosmic materials. In Camartage, Wong and the gathered sorcerers form a circle, channeling stabilizing spells to reinforce the mystical fabric weakened by Doom's energy wave. Sparks of golden light swirl in the chamber, flickering like candles caught in a storm. Wong's voice is steady as he chants the ancient incantations, but even he struggles to maintain control. The magic resists him, as if being pulled toward another source, another mind. Doom's interference is not brute force, it is the subtle rethreading of mystical currents. Wong realizes they may be dealing with someone who understands the language of the cosmos as fluently as the Sorcerer Supreme once did. Meanwhile, in the Avengers facility, the Council continues to grow. More heroes arrive, international operatives, street-level defenders, cosmic wanderers who sense the disturbance from distant corners of the galaxy. Every corridor echoes with hurried footsteps, hurried voices, hurried plans. Without guidance from Tony, Strange, Natasha, or Steve, the responsibility weighs heavily on those who remain. Sam Wilson stands at the center of it, fielding reports, issuing commands, and maintaining balance among personalities that often clash under pressure. Reed Richards analyzes the pulse again and again, projecting its multiversal signature in various forms. He discovers something terrifying: Doom's energy wave did not simply travel outward from Earth, parts of it returned from other universes. Echoes of realities where different versions of Doom exist. Reed realizes that Doom may not be acting alone. Not in the traditional sense, at least. He might be leveraging the consciousness or calculations of Doom variants across the multiverse. Not alliances, Doom does not ally, but reflections. Shadows of himself that enrich his strategy. Sue Storm notices Reed's silence and touches his shoulder gently. He does not turn. His mind is submerged too deeply in the expanding nightmare. She studies the hologram, her face tightening as she sees what he sees. If Doom's plan spans realities, then they are not fighting a single being, they are fighting an idea. A concept embodied in one man but executed by countless iterations of him. Further north, Charles Xavier meditates within the X-Mansion's psychic chamber. Sweat beads along his forehead as he attempts to connect to the psychic residue left after Doom's pulse. What he encounters is unlike anything he has felt before, a vast, cold intelligence that regards the psychic plane as a structure to be measured and controlled. Charles pulls back, unsettled. He has faced minds of unimaginable power, Apocalypse, the Phoenix, even cosmic beings, but Doom's presence is different. It is not raw power. It is calm, calculated dominance. Magneto approaches, sensing Charles's distress. For once, the usual tension between them softens. Charles explains what he felt. Magneto listens carefully, his face hardening with every word. He knows tyranny intimately. He knows ambition that seeks to reshape the world. But Doom's ambition is not driven by hatred, or fear, or superiority. It is driven by an unshakable belief that only he can bring order to a fractured existence. Magneto respects the conviction, but rejects the premise. Doom seeks to replace chaos with a singular will. Magneto has seen firsthand the dangers of a single will imposed upon the world. Far from Earth, in the cosmic expanse, the Guardians pick up the pulse's residual energy. What they discover alarms even Rocket, who struggles to decipher the readings despite his unmatched engineering instincts. The wave wasn't merely powerful, it was structured. A signal written in the language of physics itself. A declaration that something has begun. Star-Lord feels a knot tighten in his stomach. He has seen universes crumble. He knows how fragile existence truly is. If something threatens not just their galaxy, but all galaxies, they cannot ignore it. Back on Earth, as midnight reaches its darkest point, Doom initiates the next phase. The air above Latveria shimmers, bending into impossible shapes as dimensional filaments converge. Lights swirl like vortexes of stardust, forming an enormous, pulsing structure that hovers above the capital. It is neither machine nor magic, it is both, fused into a single monumental construct. A colossal fractal engine, spinning with infinite complexity, generating patterns that warp the space around it. Doom's armor lights up in synchronization with the engine, each piece glowing as if responding to commands from beyond reality. Sensors around the world detect the anomaly instantly. Satellites capture grainy images of the construct. Communications flicker with static. Reed systems, Wong's wards, and Shuri's vibranium sensors all spike simultaneously. The heroes gather around the main table as new readings flood the screens. The machine is not a weapon. It is a beacon. A summoning. A stabilizer. A gateway. The realization hits them collectively: Doom is preparing to open something, or close something. Something enormous. Something catastrophic if mishandled. Reed zooms in on the multiversal energy spiraling into the construct, recognizing the signature of temporal branches, the same kind that fractured when the sacred timeline collapsed. Doom is binding them together. Unifying threads that were never meant to coexist. The engine roars, a sound that resonates across continents like a cosmic drum. The ground trembles. The sky cracks with rifts of shimmering light. Time begins to fold. The multiverse groans, bending under the strain. And Doom stands at the center of it all, a lone figure commanding forces that would annihilate lesser beings. His voice echoes across both Earth and the multiverse, amplified through the fractal engine with chilling clarity. This world, he declares, is the fulcrum of all realities. And I am its axis. The machine ignites. The multiverse responds. And the heroes finally understand, the true battle has begun. The fractal engine above Latveria expands with a thunderous resonance, its spiraling rings growing wider, brighter, more intricate with every rotation. Light bends around it in patterns the human eye was never meant to perceive, folding in on itself and stretching outward simultaneously. The sky looks like a shattered mirror, each fracture revealing glimpses of other worlds, some familiar, others impossibly alien. For a moment, it feels as though reality itself is breathing, inhaling and exhaling in slow, cosmic rhythm. Doom stands immovable as the engine stabilizes, his cape rustling in the gravitational distortion swirling around him. His armor glows with multiversal energy, each pulse synchronized with the rotating construct above. It is as though he is not merely controlling the machine but completing it, acting as a living conduit between its mechanical complexity and the metaphysical laws it aims to rewrite. Doom raises one hand, fingers curling with deliberate elegance, and the fractal structure responds instantly, reducing its roar to a deep hum. Even the universe seems to hold its breath, awaiting his next command. Far across the world, in the Avengers facility, silence overtakes the room as the magnitude of what they're witnessing becomes clear. Screens show the construct's expanding perimeter, its energy ripples spanning continents, distorting weather, light, gravity, and electromagnetic fields. Thor can feel the sky trembling like a frightened creature. Wong senses the ancient scripts of reality rewriting themselves in real time. Shuri watches with a growing dread as vibranium vibrates uncontrollably, as though resonating with a frequency that echoes across dimensions. Sam Wilson braces himself against the table, his knuckles tightening. He feels the weight of leadership pressing down on him harder than ever. Without Steve, Natasha, Tony, Chala, or Strange, the responsibility stretches across him like a mantle of iron. Yet he remains steadier than he feels. He knows he cannot afford doubt, not now, not when the world is teetering on the precipice of a cosmic transformation driven by one man's relentless vision. Reed Richards zooms deeper into the construct's patterns, tracing the energy flow across its spiraling rings. His mind races in hyperspeed, dissecting every equation embedded in Doom's design. He recognizes elements of technologies Doom once built, but here they are magnified 1,000-fold, augmented by resources Reed never imagined possible. Doom has learned from every universe, every version of himself, every alternate reality's victories and failures. This machine is not simply a creation, it is the culmination of countless dooms refining the same idea across infinite timelines. Sue Storm steps closer, her expression tightening as she observes Reed's fear he rarely shows. She knows him better than anyone. If Reed Richards is afraid, then the universe itself is in danger. She places a protective hand near him, ready to project a shield at the slightest sign of danger, though she knows even her strongest force fields may barely withstand what Doom has unleashed. In the X-Mansion, Charles Xavier and Magneto stand at the center of a psychic maelstrom. The pulse of Doom's construct reverberates through every mind on Earth. Charles struggles to maintain balance, feeling millions of consciousnesses flicker with confusion, dread, awe. Magneto braces himself as the magnetic fields around him fluctuate violently, causing metal objects to vibrate, groan, and levitate as if drawn toward the sky. The Guardians of the Galaxy observe the expanding energy wave from deep space, their ship rattling as the cosmic distortion washes through the void. Rocket curses under his breath, struggling to stabilize the engines. Gamora grips her seat, her instincts sharp, she senses something catastrophic unfolding, not a threat to one world, but to all worlds. Star-Lord looks out the viewport, watching the colors of space tear like fabric. Drax, unusually quiet, stares with a solemn intensity. Nebula watches with cold, calculating focus. Even she cannot deny the enormity of what they face. Back on Earth, Loki stands apart from the other heroes at the Avengers facility, eyes narrowed, fingers twitching with leftover magic. He senses Doom's ambition in the air, the same way he once felt Thanos' presence looming over the universe. Yet this is different. Thanos sought balance through annihilation. Doom seeks order through domination. Loki understands both intimately, for he has danced on the edge of both paths. But the Doom he senses now is operating on a plane beyond simple conquest. The multiverse itself bends to the man's will. As the fractal engine completes its final rotation, a deep vibration ripples across space and time. The machine emits a beam of blinding energy that shoots upward into the sky, piercing through clouds, atmosphere, and then reality itself. The beam splits into countless threads of light, each threading its way through dimensional seams, opening rifts that stretch far beyond human comprehension. From the Avengers facility, Reed immediately recognizes the signatures of branching paths, the same kind created when timelines fracture. But Doom's machine is not opening new branches. It is dragging them together. The heroes stare as alternate versions of Earth appear briefly within the rifts, some dystopian, some utopian, some barren, some exploding, some crawling with life forms unrecognizable to human eyes. Each timeline flickers like a projection on thin glass, trembling as Doom's machine forces them closer to convergence. Reed's voice cracks as he whispers, he's collapsing the multiverse toward a single focal point. Thor, overwhelmed yet furious, asks, why would he do such a thing? What purpose does it serve to bring so many realities crashing together? Reed swallows hard, his words heavy with dread. Because he believes only one reality should exist. A perfected one. His. The machine's pulling force intensifies, creating a multiversal vortex above Latveria. Winds tear across the landscape. Storm clouds spiral like colossal whirlpools. Lightning crackles in unnatural colors, twisting around the construct. The barriers between universes weaken, creating echoes of worlds bleeding into one another. And Doom watches with unwavering calm. He raises both arms, as if welcoming the converging realities. His voice booms across the multiverse, amplified not by speakers, but by sheer force of will woven into his machine. Chaos has reigned for too long. Infinite timelines, infinite errors, infinite catastrophes. I will forge order from the ruins of unbounded possibility. His armor glows brighter, energy coursing through him as he interfaces more deeply with the engine. The world trembles as though on the brink of metamorphosis. At the Avengers facility, alarms spike into red-level crisis. Reed shouts for defensive scans. Wong prepares containment wards. Shuri coordinates a worldwide energy barrier plan. Sam commands evacuation protocols in case the planet destabilizes. Thor grips Stormbreaker, ready to fly. And then it happens. The multiverse tears open. Not like a wound, but like a doorway. A massive chasm rips across the sky above Latveria, revealing an impossible expanse of fractal shapes, cosmic storms, infinite timelines collapsing toward the center like rivers drawn into a single whirlpool. The energy is overwhelming. The world glows with the light of creation and destruction intertwined. Doom steps forward. For the first time, the heroes see it clearly, he is not simply building a machine. He is ascending. The air around Latveria fractures like splintering glass as the cosmic doorway widens, revealing a storm of cascading timelines swirling together into a colossal vortex. The sky becomes a living canvas of infinite possibility, alternate Earths overlapping like translucent layers, realities bleeding into one another with ghostly precision. Cities flicker in and out of existence. Mountains rise and collapse. Oceans boil, freeze, and evaporate in seconds. Entire worlds appear, vanish, and are replaced by others in a dizzying cascade. The earth beneath the phenomenon groans under the strain. Waves crash violently along coastlines thousands of miles away. Fault lines shift. Volcanic vents erupt across the globe. The planet is reacting as any living organism would, with violent rejection of the force trying to reshape it. Doom remains perfectly still amidst the chaos. His cape whips violently behind him, the multiversal winds bending to his presence rather than forcing him back. His armor gleams in the crystalline light pouring from the rift above, golden reflections dancing across the metal contours. The mask hides any trace of emotion, but the posture says everything. He stands as one who believes fate itself has bowed before him. He lifts a hand, and instantly the fractal engine responds. Rings slow. Patterns realign. Beams of light converge downward, enveloping Doom in a spiraling cocoon of multiversal energy. The vibrations across the world intensify, and for a moment, time stumbles, seconds elongate, contract, twist out of order. People across the planet feel a sensation like being stretched beyond their physical forms, their memories briefly overlapping with lives they never lived. A woman in Brazil gasps as she suddenly recalls being a warrior in a world of dragons. A man in Japan remembers dying in another universe only seconds before feeling alive again. Children cry as visions of alternate parents, alternate homes, alternate identities flicker through their minds. Time becomes soft. Reality becomes thin. Doom's voice resonates through the distortion, carried not by sound but by the very threads of reality itself. Behold the convergence, the purification of existence. In the Avengers facility, chaos erupts. Systems shut down. Holograms freeze. Reed Richards staggers backward as he sees timelines collapsing on his monitors faster than he can process. Sue shields him instinctively as a column of light erupts from the floor, flickering with unstable energy. Wong struggles to hold the wards in place, his hands trembling as he channels mystical power that strains even his mastery. Sam Wilson grips the table to steady himself as time staggers, moments replaying and skipping like a broken reel. He looks down and sees his hands flicker, one moment wearing the Captain America gauntlet, another moment bare, another moment metal-gloved as though from a reality where Wakanda designed his suit. He shakes his head, grounding himself through sheer will. Thor roars a battle cry as the temporal distortion hits him. Memories slam into his mind, alternate Thors wielding different weapons, ruling Asgard, dying in battle, fighting beside heroes he's never met. He grips Stormbreaker and channels lightning into the ground, anchoring himself with raw cosmic force. Sparks explode from the impact point, stabilizing a small bubble of reality around him. Loki reels as countless versions of himself invade his mind, some heroic, some monstrous, some ordinary. He sees the face of the Loki who once saved the multiverse by holding the timeline together. He sees Sylvie's blade piercing He Who Remains. He sees infinite branches fracturing outward. His breath catches in his throat. He feels something he rarely experiences, fear, for the universe, and perhaps for the first time, not just for himself. In Wakanda, Shuri and her scientists brace against the shockwaves as vibranium glows brighter than ever, reverberating with unstable frequencies. The ore is responding to Doom's convergence like a tuning fork resonating with cosmic vibrations. Shuri screams for the stabilizers as consoles explode around her. The hologram of the world map begins to melt, flickering between multiple realities of Wakanda, some advanced, some ruined, some unrecognizable. The X-Mansion shakes violently as Charles Xavier clutches his head, bombarded by psychic feedback from billions of minds experiencing temporal overlap. Magneto steps beside him, using his electromagnetic control to stabilize the metal framework of the room. For once, Charles accepts his help without words. Storm channels atmospheric energy to keep the collapsing weather patterns around the mansion at bay. Cyclops steadies the younger mutants, ensuring that panic doesn't spread through their ranks. Out in space, the Guardians stare in horrified awe as the rift expands into the cosmic vacuum. Nebula grips the cockpit chair as she sees multiple versions of the KYLN prison flicker in and out of existence. Rocket swears, his voice thin with fear. Drax's expression grows grim as he watches alternate universes die in seconds. Star-Lord tightens his jaw, feeling a responsibility settle over him stronger than anything since the battle with Ego. And then something shifts. The vortex above Latveria stops expanding. It begins contracting, slowly at first, then with growing force, pulling debris, energy, and fragments of timelines inward like a colossal siphon. The earth shakes violently. Skyscrapers sway. Oceans spill over coastlines. Across the planet, people feel their bodies tugged by a force that seems to want to pull them out of existence. Reed Richards gasps as he realizes what's happening. He's compressing timelines. He's forcing them into a singular universe, our universe. Wong's voice cracks, he's attempting to bind infinite realities to one anchor point. That's impossible, no universe can sustain that weight. Thor raises his voice over the roaring wind. If he succeeds, will our world survive? Reed swallows. No. It will collapse under its own paradox. Back in Latveria, Doom steps forward, now encased in a halo of spiraling energy. The ground beneath him begins to crack, glowing with the force of condensed timelines merging. His armor shifts, reforging itself as multiversal energy rewrites its structure. He looks taller, stronger, more imposing. Each movement leaves a trail of shimmering afterimages, echoes of alternate Dooms overlapping with him. He is becoming the nexus of all Doom variants. A singular Doom forged from infinite versions. The Doom above all. His voice deepens, layered with thousands of tones speaking in harmony. Within chaos lies opportunity. Within infinite error lies a single truth. I am that truth. He rises into the air, borne aloft by pure multiversal force. The fractal engine glows brighter, nearly white-hot, as it channels unimaginable power. And then, a shockwave erupts. It slams into the planet. Into the heroes. Into the cosmos. Into reality itself. Time stops. Sound dies. Light flattens. For a moment, the universe is nothing but a thin line of possibility stretched taut. Then the line trembles. Then it begins to snap. One by one, realities shatter across the multiverse like collapsing stars. The heroes stare up at the sky, at the collapsing heavens, realizing that this is no longer about saving their world. It is about saving existence. For a moment so thin it barely deserves to be called an instant, existence hangs between annihilation and rebirth. Every molecule, every memory, every star and soul, every choice ever made across infinite timelines flickers in a silent void suspended by Doom's will. Reality is stretched like fragile glass pulled across an infinite frame. The heroes, scattered across the world and beyond, feel their minds float in a place without sound, without gravity, without color, only raw awareness trapped between collapsing worlds. And then the universe breathes in. The shockwave that follows isn't a sound, but a sensation, a violent implosion of pressure that slams back into the cosmos, as if reality itself is snapping into place by force. Colors return in a blinding surge. Air floods lungs. Gravity reasserts itself. The heroes gasp as they're thrown back into their bodies, stumbling, falling, bracing as the world shudders around them. Above Latveria, the sky is a torn tapestry of screaming light. Infinite echoes of Earth collapse inward, spiraling in luminous streams toward the fractal engine. Cities from other universes flicker ghost-like over the landscape, futures that never were, pasts that never happened, worlds where the Avengers never existed, worlds where they ruled, worlds where they died. They appear, distort, and vanish like dying embers pulled into a void. Doom rises higher, his armor now a burning constellation of golden fractures, each line humming with the voices of infinite dooms whispering in sync. His very presence distorts the air, causing ripples of warped space to spread outward with each gesture. Below him, the ground tears open in geometric lines as the earth trembles under the weight of converging realities. The glowing fissures pulse with chronal energy, forming lattice-like patterns across Latveria that spread outward, crawling over mountains, rivers, cities. The patterns are beautiful, terrifying, and utterly alien, symbols from universes that never touched, now being forced to overlap. Reed Richards watches the readings spike into incomprehensible territory, the data scrolling faster than any human mind can process. His eyes widen as he sees fundamental constants fluctuating, speed of light, gravitational force, electromagnetic fields, shifting wildly as the multiverse compresses. Sue places herself in front of him instinctively as glass around the facility cracks from the pressure. Sam Wilson steadies his stance as the vibrations nearly throw him off his feet. He can feel his bones buzzing with displaced reality, his memories flickering like an unstable signal. For a split second, he sees himself leading a different team, a different world, carrying a different shield entirely. Then the image is gone. Thor lifts Stormbreaker, planting its blade into the ground, channeling cosmic energy to anchor himself against the tide of shifting existence. Arcs of lightning tear across the sky, but even the storms answer sluggishly, distorted by Doom's influence. Wong stumbles as the mystic wards collapse one by one. The air is filled with the metallic taste of unstable magic. Spells unravel mid-incantation, turning to dust in his hands. He grits his teeth, shouting orders to the sorcerers to maintain dimensional integrity, but the multiverse itself resists them. At the X-Mansion, Charles Xavier is racked with psychic overload. Every mind on Earth pulses with panic, confusion, fragmented memories bleeding across timelines. Magneto creates an electromagnetic cocoon around the chamber, steadying the building structure with sheer force of will. Storm raises her hands, summoning a localized storm system to keep temporal winds from ripping the mansion apart. In Wakanda, Shuri grips a console as vibranium overloads, glowing so brightly it threatens to melt through the walls. The metal is screaming, in resonance, in distress, in warning. It vibrates with the power of 1,000 possible Wakandas overlapping at once. The Guardian's ship tumbles through the cosmic distortion, alarms blaring as Rocket fights to keep systems stable. Nebula's cybernetics glitch violently, flashing scenes of lives she never lived. Gamora clutches her chest as alternate memories crash into her mind. Star-Lord grabs the controls, teeth gritted, refusing to let the ship get pulled into Doom's gravitational madness. Back in Latveria, Doom spreads his arms, embracing the tidal wave of collapsing universes. The fractal engine surges, its rings spinning so fast they blur into a single halo of white fire. The machine pulls harder, faster, more violently. The rifts widen, consuming entire swaths of sky. Doom's voice echoes across all realities at once, layered, omnipresent, impossible to ignore. Reality fractures because it lacks purpose. Infinity breeds disorder. I will compress it. Refine it. Forge a singular plane of existence, perfect, stable, inevitable. He raises both hands, and the vortex intensifies into a blinding spiral. The heroes feel the crushing weight of collapsing universes pressing down on them. The ground craters. Oceans roar. Clouds tear into ribbons. Suns in distant realities flicker and die within the whirlpool above. And then, a scream rips through the collapsing multiverse. Not from a person. From reality itself. A long, agonized wail of spacetime tearing under stress. Cracks spread across the sky like fractures in a frozen lake, glowing bright with raw cosmic bleed. Stars shimmer through them from other dimensions. Time itself staggers, skipping frames. People all over Earth freeze in place for moments at a time. Cities flicker between architectures. The moon blurs. If doom is not stopped now, the universe will suffer a collapse from which nothing can be rebuilt. But the heroes are not finished. Sam Wilson lifts his head, eyes filled with a resolve that refuses to be extinguished. Thor's grip tightens as he prepares to hurl lightning into the impossible storm. Wong summons the last reserves of his strength, forming a protective dome around the shattered fabric of causality. Reed turns to Sue, overwhelmed but determined, his voice trembling but sure. "We must destabilize the engine," he says. "If we don't, everything ends." Sue nods, projecting a shimmering shield around them as she prepares to act without hesitation. Shuri activates Wakanda's emergency vibranium broadcast. Charles Xavier attempts to stabilize the minds of millions. The Guardians push toward Earth at maximum warp. Magneto rises into the sky, ready to bend the metal of Doom's machine itself. Doom sees them gathering. He does not falter. He does not fear. He does not even regard them as threats. In his eyes, they are fragments of a broken philosophy clinging to a doomed ideal. He extends his hand. The fractal engine ignites into a second shockwave. This one is stronger. Harsher. Final. The world buckles. Mountains warp. Skies scream. Seas lift. Time shatters. The multiverse cracks wide open, and the heroes launch themselves into the heart of the impossible. The universe convulses as Doom unleashes the second shockwave, a blast of reality-warping force that ripples outward in rings of white gold energy. The ground fractures like cracked bone beneath the strain, oceans bulge upward in colossal tidal walls before collapsing back down in frothing cascades, and the sky becomes an incomprehensible mosaic of worlds colliding, skies that were never meant to exist together pressed into the same canvas. Time stops. Then sprints. Then slows to a crawl. Heroes everywhere feel their bodies pulled between instants, as if caught in the undertow of a cosmic tide that wants to rip their atoms across multiple lifetimes. The air itself seems to scream as Doom's convergence tightens its grip. Space bends around him like a submissive creature, its laws rewriting themselves in spirals that cradle him like a crown. And yet, through the chaos, the heroes move. Sam Wilson is the first to push through the temporal distortion. His wings spark with chronal fragments as he forces himself forward, every step feeling like he's walking through thick liquid time. He clutches his shield tighter, the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. He doesn't shout a rallying cry, there's no air left to spare, but the determination in his eyes speaks louder than any words ever could. Thor follows next, lightning radiating from him in jagged arcs. His body flickers, showing echoes of the countless versions of him that exist: King Thor, Rune Thor, Young Thor, Broken Thor. All converge into a singular roar of defiance as he throws Stormbreaker into the storm of collapsing universes. The weapon tears through distortions, cutting a path of momentary stability for the others. Wong rises into the air, hands swirling with magical sigils desperately stitched together from frayed strands of ancient spells. His eyes burn with gold as he calls upon powers no sorcerer should ever touch. The mystic arts resist him, reality itself resists him, but he pushes on, using raw willpower to hold back the unraveling horizon long enough for others to advance. The X-Men arrive as one unified force. Storm commands the very atmosphere to obey, pulling lightning from collapsing thunderclouds to forge a protective barrier. Cyclops fires optic blasts so intense they carve tunnels through bent spacetime. Jean Grey, emerging from the swirling winds, steps forward with her mind aflame, her psychic presence a beacon of stability amidst the chaos. Even Charles Xavier, weakened and pale, projects mental clarity into the maelstrom, anchoring the minds of the world with a psychic tether. Wakanda rises too. Shuri deploys vibranium resonance cannons, their deep, pulsing waves pushing back multiversal distortions like ripples against an incoming tide. The Dora Milaje form a protective perimeter, their spears crackling with kinetic energy charged by the collapsing timelines. For a moment, Wakanda stands as a pillar of harmony in the fracturing multiverse. The Fantastic Four advance as a unified front. Johnny blazes fiery trails through the swirling rifts, sealing destabilized pockets for a few instants at a time. Ben Grimm roars defiantly as he smashes through ruptured ground that would swallow lesser beings whole. Sue expands titanic force fields, shielding entire groups of displaced civilians caught in the temporal storm. And Reed, his mind racing at impossible speeds, begins stitching together a plan, analyzing the fractal engine's patterns even while his body contorts to avoid cascading reality hazards. The Guardians of the Galaxy crash land near Latveria in a rain of sparks and smoke. Star-Lord stumbles out of the wreckage, blasters drawn, eyes fixed on the impossible figure in the sky. Rocket jumps onto the field instantly, dragging with him a device he built in under a minute, something sparking, unstable, and extremely dangerous. Drax charges without hesitation, each step powered by pure, unbreakable resolve. Gamora moves like a green flash, her blades tracing arcs of real space in a battlefield that no longer obeys physical laws. Even more heroes arrive, street level, cosmic, mystical, scientific. Not all are equipped for this kind of fight, but they come anyway. Because that's what they do. Because Doom's victory would erase everything they've ever known. Meanwhile, Doom barely turns his head. He watches their approach with the indifference of a king observing ants climbing the steps of a throne. The ground quakes harder, splitting open with glowing cracks. The vortex expands, pulling entire cities upward in fragments that crumble into dust before reforming into unrecognizable shapes. The sky pulses like a beating heart, each throb collapsing another section of the multiverse into Doom's machine. Reed's voice trembles as he realizes what's happening. He's not just collapsing timelines, he's absorbing them. He's fusing their physical and metaphysical constants into himself. Thor grits his teeth. He means to become a god. Loki, stepping out of the flickering shadows, whispers, "No, not a god. The only version of a god that ever mattered to him. Himself." The group charges forward, a unified spearhead of defiance. Sam lifts into the air, shield raised. Thor hurls lightning that splits into 1,000 jagged lines. Jean Grey unleashes a psychic wave that trembles through the heavens. Reed activates a destabilizer waveform. Shuri fires a vibranium pulse that resonates with the engine's core frequency. Star-Lord, improbably, takes aim at Doom's silhouette and fires. They all converge on him in a single moment. Doom raises a hand. The world freezes. Waves stop mid-crash. Storm clouds freeze in place. Birds hang motionless in the air. Every hero is suspended between moments, caught like insects in amber. Except one. Sue Storm. Her invisibility cloaks her from reality itself, allowing her to slip between Doom's moment-stopping pulse. For a heartbeat, she is the only free being in the universe. She sees Doom hovering within his halo of spiraling fractal light. He is beautiful in a terrible, majestic way, an architect of existence standing on the brink of almighty power. She knows him better than most. Knows his brilliance and his madness. Knows the man behind the mask. Her throat tightens. She whispers his name, not as an enemy, but as someone who once cared, Victor. For a fraction of a second, barely noticeable, Doom's head tilts. He heard her. That instant is the crack the universe needed. Sue unleashes everything she has. A force field explosion erupts from her palms, a blast of pure invisible power amplified by the collapsing multiverse around her. It tears through Doom's stillness, shattering the frozen moment, breaking his hold over the heroes. The world snaps back into motion. And the heroes surge forward again. Doom twists in place, more annoyed than harmed. The golden cracks of energy across his armor pulse aggressively, reacting to the disruption. The halo of multiversal power around him flares. His voice booms across every reality still intact. You seek to defy inevitability. He extends his hand toward the fractal engine, and the machine begins transforming. Its rings fold inward. Its beams pulse faster. Its heart opens, revealing something inside, a sphere of condensed timelines, a multiversal core, glowing with all the power of existence. Doom prepares to merge with it. Thor feels the dread rising like a storm. If he completes this, Reed finishes the sentence for him. There will be no undoing. No multiverse. Only Doom. The heroes sprint, fly, teleport, or blast themselves toward him with everything they have left. Every reality around them collapses further, swirling in luminous streams converging on Doom like rivers feeding an infinite sun. Doom reaches toward the core. His fingers brush its surface. Reality screams again. And the final phase of his ascension begins. The moment Doom's fingertips touch the multiversal core, the battlefield erupts into a blinding eruption of white fire. Not heat, something deeper, more ancient, an elemental force older than the Big Bang itself. The heroes shield their eyes as the light spreads outward, carving silhouettes across the shredded remains of what used to be Earth's sky. It feels like standing inside the birth of creation and the death of everything at once. The air disappears. Sound vanishes. Color bleeds away into nothing. And then, violently, existence snaps back. Doom is suspended above the fractal engine. But he is not the Doom they knew even seconds ago. His armor is no longer metal. It is composed of shifting plates of condensed universes, each glowing with tiny galaxies orbiting across their surface. The runes etched into his mask pulse with starlight. His cape flows like liquid spacetime, each fold revealing fractured versions of the heroes fighting below. He has become something beyond mortal, beyond cosmic. He has become multiversal. Every hero feels the pressure of his presence like the weight of a planet pressing down on their chest. Their bones vibrate with the strain of simply being near him. Even Thor, who has stood in the shadow of celestials and battled gods, feels small. Doom's voice is different now. Layered. Echoing across infinite planes. Your struggle ends. Your fates converge here. You stand not against a tyrant, but against the singular will of reality. His power lashes outward. A shockwave of impossible force blasts across the battlefield. The ground buckles in rolling waves, turning mountains into dust and dust into atoms. Entire cities are pulled into the sky and shattered like glass. The dimensional rifts around them widen, their edges smoldering with white flame. Fragments of timelines swirl around Doom, dinosaurs roaring, futuristic cities flickering, alien skies collapsing inward, each drawn toward him like dust into a black hole. The heroes scatter, each barely escaping annihilation. Sam Wilson slams into the ruins of a tower, his wings flickering and damaged. He grips his shield, breathing hard, feeling the overwhelming force pressing against him. For a fleeting moment, doubt creeps into his chest. How do you fight a being who controls the laws of existence? But then he sees civilians scattered across the broken cityscape, disoriented and terrified, and he forces himself forward. Captain America does not retreat. Thor hits the ground hard but rolls to his feet, lightning exploding around him. He lifts Stormbreaker and roars with fury, summoning a bolt of cosmic thunder so violent it splits the sky in half. He hurls it with all the might of a god. Doom raises his hand. The lightning freezes midair, shattering into spectral fragments that dissolve into nothingness. Thor staggers. It's the first time in centuries his lightning has been simply erased. Wong, floating above the rubble, carves a series of overlapping sigils with blazing golden strokes. He chants an incantation so ancient even strange never dared utter it. Magic circles spiral outward, forming a dome of reality-stabilizing energy over the battlefield. But Doom's gaze flicks toward him, just a glance, and Wong's spells unravel into threads of raw arcane power before detonating in a backfire that sends him crashing to the ground. Jean Grey lifts into the air, her eyes glowing with phoenix fire. She reaches out with her mind, pushing into Doom's consciousness, hoping to find even a sliver of humanity, some anchor, some weakness. Instead, she encounters a storm. A roaring, unending tempest of fractured realities. Every thought Doom holds manifests as a universe collapsing and reforming in an instant. Jean cries out as the psychic feedback hits her like 1,000 dying stars. Xavier reaches her telepathically, lending his strength, guiding her mind away from the void before it devours her completely. The X-Men rally. Cyclops fires a stream of optic energy so dense it cuts through layers of warped spacetime, striking Doom's armor and actually making him flinch. Storm calls down a cosmic tempest, pulling thunder not from Earth but from the stars themselves, her eyes glowing white as she unleashes the combined fury of every sky that still exists. For a heartbeat, Doom's descent falters. Reed notices. He can be slowed, but not for long. Keep pressure on him. Shuri deploys vibranium resonance pylons, stabbing them into the collapsing ground. They hum with synchronized energy, forming a lattice meant to disrupt the engine's harmonic field. Vibranium, uniquely attuned to energy, stabilizes a small pocket of reality around the heroes. Rocket jumps onto the pylon platform, slapping down a device full of sparking wires. If this thing doesn't blow us all up, it might just piss him off enough to distract him. The Guardians spread out. Gamora darts through the chaos, using debris and temporal distortions as cover. Drax charges in broad daylight, screaming Doom's name and challenging the newly ascended being like he's just another target on his list. Groot grows into a towering giant, roots anchoring into fractured earth as he throws wooden tendrils upward to snare Doom, but the tendrils turn to ash before reaching him. Across the broken skyline, portals open. Camartage reinforcements arrive, dozens of sorcerers projecting mirrored shields, binding spells, and astral chains. For a moment, the sky glows with kaleidoscope light as magic clashes with cosmic force. Doom sweeps his hand. Every sorcerer is thrown from the sky as if swatted by a celestial. Bodies fall like meteors toward the ruins below, but Captain Marvel streaks across the battlefield, catching them one by one in blazing arcs of light. She lands hard, eyes burning like twin suns, energy roaring from her shoulders. She faces Doom directly. Victor. Stand down. Doom actually stops. Because Carol Danvers is not merely human. She is one of the few beings who has wielded power that rivals the cosmos. Energy radiates from her in pulsating waves, distorting the air with heat and gravity. She rockets toward him, a comet of pure starlight. Doom catches her by the throat mid-flight. Carol struggles, energy blazing, pushing against his grip with the strength of a supernova. Doom's cosmic armor glows brighter, feeding on multiversal power, and he squeezes until cracks of light fracture across her binary form. Then he throws her into the horizon. A shockwave erupts as she disappears into a pillar of golden fire miles away. Panic rips through the battlefield. Reed shouts to anyone who can hear him over the roaring chaos. He grows stronger with every passing second. If he fully merges with the core, he will rewrite the multiverse in his image. And how do we stop him? Sam demands, leaping over a collapsing bridge. Reed's voice breaks. I don't know. The words hang heavy, more devastating than Doom's power. But amidst the hopelessness, a voice rises above the destruction. Quiet at first, then firm. It is Sue. We stop him, together. Her voice is steady. Not loud, not commanding, simply certain. She steps forward, her face illuminated by the spiraling light of the fractal machine. Her eyes hold no fear, only resolve. She has seen Doom's best and his worst. She has known him as victor, as friend, as rival, as enemy. And now, she sees the truth, he is not an unstoppable force. He is a man trying to become something more. And that, she believes, is his weakness. She turns to Reed. To the Avengers. To the X-Men. To every hero battered and broken but still standing. There is still a piece of Victor inside that armor. She looks upward at the godlike figure reshaping reality with casual flicks of his fingers. And I can reach it. Thor grips Stormbreaker tighter. If you fail, Sue nods. Then everything ends. Jean steps forward, steadying her with a hand. You won't be alone. For the first time in a long time, Sue smiles. She rises into the fractured sky. Straight toward Doom. Sue ascends into the chaos, her form shimmering with barely visible distortion fields that bend the broken light around her. She feels the multiverse pulling at her body, tugging at her atoms as if trying to disassemble her into scattered possibilities. She pushes harder, maintaining her stability through sheer force of will and decades of experience controlling forces no human was built to endure. Below her, the battlefield shrinks into a mosaic of fire, lightning, shattered architecture, and swirling dimensional fractures. Above her, Doom hangs suspended like a dark star, devouring every law of physics that once held the universe together. The engine behind him pulses faster, its rings layering atop each other in impossible geometries that twist the mind to look at. She moves toward him until the air grows heavy and thick with metaphysical pressure. The closer she gets, the more time begins to elongate, each second stretching into a minute. Her heartbeat slows. Her breath thickens. But she keeps moving. Victor, she says. Her voice doesn't echo in the air, it echoes in every plane that still exists. Doom turns his head slowly, as if his movements must now drag the weight of infinite timelines behind them. His gaze settles on her, no, through her. He sees not Sue in this moment but every version of her that has ever lived or might have lived. Time branches behind her like a shattered mirror. Susan Storm, he says, his voice folding through multiple tones at once. The last voice of reason in a collapsing world. She stops a dozen meters from him, any closer and her molecules might be pulled apart. You don't have to finish this, she says, forcing her voice to remain steady. You can still step back. Doom looks down at her, and the glow around his eyes intensifies. I cannot step back. The multiverse is broken. Chaos reigns. Only through my will can order be restored. You aren't restoring order, Sue answers softly. You're replacing it. Doom's cape shifts like a storm front, its fabric rippling with starlight. Order defined by lesser beings inevitably collapses. I will create a structure that cannot be undone. That's not creation, Victor, she says. It's domination. Doom pauses. A faint hesitation. Just long enough for the others to see it. Jean, still recovering, senses the moment. Reed sees the micro-expression behind that mask, the flicker of doubt he's known since college. Even Thor, battered and scorched, recognizes the subtle wavering of a warrior confronting something he feared to admit. Sue takes a slow breath. I know you think this is the only way. I know you've always believed you could see the flaw in every system, every human decision, every world. But you're wrong about one thing. Doom's eyes narrow. And what is that? You don't understand hope. The multiversal winds howl. Entire continents crumble in the distance. Reality moans under the pressure of Doom's transformation. Yet within this collapsing storm, Sue's voice remains calm. You've always thought hope was childish, she continues. Weak. Naive. But hope is the thing that drives people to change. It drives them to keep fighting even when the universe tries to crush them. Hope is why we're all still here, right now. Doom raises a hand. The motion sends ripples of cosmic distortion through the air. You speak of hope as if it can rewrite the laws of existence. No, Sue says. But it can inspire people who can. At that moment, Sam Wilson rockets upward with a burst of wing power, shield raised as he barrels through a collapsing gravity well. His body is scorched, suit torn, but he refuses to fall. Thor follows close behind, lightning flaring once more despite his wounds. For Midgard, he roars, swinging Stormbreaker. The X-Men rise behind them. Cyclops unleashes a blast so intense it stretches into a continuous beam. Storm summons winds from the void, wrapping them around her team. Jean channels every ounce of psychic strength left in her to stabilize the others' minds against Doom's mental onslaught. The Avengers. The X-Men. The Guardians. The Fantastic Four. The Sorcerers. The Wakandans. The Strangers. The Lone Fighters. The Cosmic Warriors. Everyone. All united. All pushing forward. All refusing to surrender. Doom looks down at them. At the swarm of broken heroes flying toward him, refusing to bow. Refusing to give up. Refusing to accept his version of the universe. For the first time since absorbing the multiversal core, Doom's aura flickers. Sue's voice cuts through the chaos. This isn't about power, Victor. This is about fear. Doom snaps his gaze back to her. You're afraid of a universe you can't control. Afraid of failure. Afraid of what happened to your mother. Afraid of what happened to you. But control won't heal you. He doesn't respond. Because for the first time in a long time, she has struck something inside him. Sue moves closer, even as her invisibility fields begin to tear at the seams. Every version of you that ever existed failed to understand one thing: you don't need to be a god to matter. She touches her fingertips to her chest. You mattered to me when you were just Victor. The light around Doom bursts in a pulse of violent energy. His voice glitches through rage and confusion. You presume to understand me. You presume to know my pain. I do, she whispers. Doom's mask tilts slightly, an expression no one else would ever detect. He falters. Just a fraction. But it's enough. Reed sees it. Jean feels it. Thor senses it. Captain Marvel, streaking back into the sky with a trail of cosmic fire, sees the opportunity. The heroes converge. Doom lifts both hands and summons every ounce of multiversal energy. Reality bends, collapses, screams. Sue holds her ground. The entire battlefield vibrates. Doom's voice roars across infinite worlds. You would defy God. Sue looks directly into his burning eyes. No, Victor. I'm trying to save you. The light swells to the intensity of a star going nova. The heroes dive in. And Doom unleashes his full power. The explosion of multiversal light is so vast that it seems to swallow the entire horizon. Sue feels her body shaking under the force, her invisibility fields cracking apart like shattering glass. Every atom of her being vibrates as Doom releases a blast that's no longer energy in any natural sense. It's the rejection of every law the universe once held sacred. The world bends. The skies collapse. Every timeline howls. Thor is the first to hit the wave. Stormbreaker lights up with blinding runes as it absorbs the brunt of the impact. The shock flings Thor backward, lightning scattering from his armor in unstable bursts. He hits a broken spire, nearly crashing through it before swinging the axe to anchor himself. Sam Wilson raises the shield, his arm nearly snaps from the recoil. The blast consumes him, hurling him downward, but he twists mid-fall, dragging his battered wings out to steady his descent. He refuses to be knocked out. A captain never falls without trying to rise. Jean Grey shields the X-Men with a telekinetic dome, even as cracks spread through it like spiderweb fractures on glass. She screams from the strain. Charles reaches out telepathically, adding his strength, his voice steady even though sweat pours down his face. Reed wraps his body around Sue in a desperate, elastic cocoon, stretching his limbs to absorb the blow. He feels his cells tearing, rebuilding, tearing again. Pain ripples through him, but he refuses to let her take the full impact. He knows she is the key. She is the only one who reached doom. The only one who made him hesitate. Rocket clings to Groot's shoulder as the giant braces both arms against the blast. Groot's bark splits in glowing amber cracks, branches tearing loose, but he holds, whispering his only words through gritted wooden teeth. I am Groot. Carol Danvers streaks upward, catching the heart of Doom's blast head-on. Her body glows white-hot, binary energy roaring as she fights to contain the cosmic shockwave. She pushes with everything inside her until her bones feel like molten metal. She screams, not in fear but fury. The sorcerers, those few still standing, join hands, projecting a shield of combined mystic force. The dome flickers, distorts, warps into fractal patterns. It collapses moments later, throwing them all backward. The Avengers, the X-Men, the Guardians, Wakanda, Kamartaj, the Fantastic Four, everyone is hitting Doom's wall of power, struggling just to remain conscious. And above them all, Doom floats untouched. His voice echoes through the collapsing planes like a choir of distorted universes. You fight for a world that was doomed long before I rose above it. You cling to broken laws and fragile hopes. You resist inevitability. Sue steps out of Reed's protection, pushing his stretched body aside. Her hair whips wildly, her face streaked with dirt, blood, and shimmering fragments of invisible energy. She can barely stand, but she forces herself to rise into the air again. She rises slowly, painfully, until she is level with Doom. Her voice is barely above a whisper, but it pierces through the multiversal storm. Victor, you are not inevitability. Doom's golden eyes flare. I am the future. No, she says. You're afraid of the future. For the first time, Doom hesitates visibly. The multiversal currents around him flicker. Sue presses forward. Every step feels like it tears skin from bone, but she moves anyway. You think controlling everything will make you whole. But you were broken long before this engine. Long before your armor. Long before you convinced yourself you needed the world to kneel. Doom's aura intensifies, swirling with unstable energy. You seek to manipulate me emotionally, he says, but his voice carries a note of unease. You think sentiment can unmake divinity. No, Sue replies softly. I think it can reach the man wearing the divinity like a shield. Doom's head tilts, his mask glinting with infinite reflections of her face in countless timelines. The man you speak of died long ago, he says. That's the lie you've always told yourself, Sue responds. You lost people you loved. You failed in ways you couldn't accept. And instead of healing, you built walls, literal and emotional, around the parts of yourself that hurt. Reed calls up from below, voice strained. Sue, don't, she raises a hand. Reed stops. Because this moment isn't his. It never was. Sue takes another step toward Doom. She is close enough now to feel the heat radiating off his cosmic aura, smell the raw ozone of reality tearing apart, taste the metallic tang of unstable atoms in the air. Time bends so tightly around his body that her movements smear into afterimages. But she keeps moving toward him. You don't want to fix the universe, she says. You want to fix yourself. Doom's hands curl into fists. Energy ripples. His voice trembles with restrained rage. You speak as though you know my suffering. I don't know all of it, she admits. But I know enough. Her face softens, not pity, not superiority, compassion. You're not beyond saving, Victor. Lightning bursts across the battlefield. The ground shakes. The multiversal core pulses violently, reacting to Doom's emotional instability. Rings collapse inward, re-evaluating their structure. The sky splits open like a shattered windowpane, revealing infinite worlds swirling behind a thin barrier. Doom looks away, as if afraid she'll see something behind his mask. Sue moves closer. "Let us help you," she says. A long silence follows. Even the storm quiets, if only for a breath. In that moment, something changes in Doom's expression, a minute twitch, a shift in posture, the smallest falter in the godlike confidence. For a heartbeat, he looks almost human. Then a voice cuts through the battlefield like a poisoned blade. It comes from below. A voice filled with anger, exhaustion, grief. Namor. His spear gleams with Atlantean metal, pulsing with energy pulled straight from the ocean's depths. Water swirls around him in an orbiting cyclone as he rockets upward. "Sue, move." Before anyone can react, Namor hurls his spear with a roar that shakes the ruins. It hurtles straight toward Doom's exposed chest. Time slows. Sue's eyes widen. Doom's gaze snaps downward. The spear strikes. A burst of multiversal energy explodes outward, tearing through Doom's armor, cracking it. Cracking him. The light that pours out is blinding and raw. Doom screams, a sound that echoes through infinite worlds. Sue is thrown backward, tumbling through the air. Reed lunges to catch her. Every hero watches in horror. Because Namor's attack has done something far worse than injure Doom. It has destabilized the multiversal core. The engine begins to fail. The barriers holding the universes apart start collapsing at once. Doom's body sparks with fractures of pure timeline energy. He is losing control. And the multiverse is going with him. The moment the Atlantean spear pierces Doom's cosmic armor, reality convulses like a living creature in agony. A sound rips across the battlefield, not a boom, not an explosion, but a deep, resonant vibration that shakes every atom of existence. It is the sound of the multiverse cracking. Doom's scream splits through infinite layers of space. Light erupts from the fracture in his chest, pouring out in streams of raw timeline energy, glowing threads that unravel and reweave themselves in impossible patterns. The wound is not physical, it is metaphysical, a rupture between the worlds he has absorbed and the form he forced them into. Doom clutches his chest, his voice glitching through distorted frequencies. "No, no, you do not understand," his words are swallowed by the engine as it spirals into destabilization. Rings collapse into each other, misaligning, twisting into chaotic new shapes. The core flickers, stuttering between universes. Images of countless Earths flash across its surface, some peaceful, some burning, some alien. Their borders weaken. Their timelines begin to bleed together. The ground quakes so violently that buildings shatter into dust. Rivers reverse direction. Fragments of alternate worlds materialize, an alien forest flickers into existence beside a ruined city street, a medieval castle appears for 3 seconds before collapsing into ash, a highway full of cars from another Earth falls from the sky and crashes into the battlefield. Namor, still hovering from the force of his throw, finally realizes the horror in Sue's eyes. "What have you done?" she whispers. Namor's expression, proud at first, shifts slowly into dread. "I struck an enemy," he says, but the confidence in his voice bleeds away when he sees Doom's armor fracturing further, cracks spreading like molten lightning. "You struck the core," Reed says, staring up at the unraveling engine. Victor was the only one holding it together. The heroes, as battered as they are, back away instinctively as the air ripples outward in spiraling shockwaves that fold space in on itself. Gravity alters direction. Magnetism fractures. Light bends. Every sense distorts. Doom's body tilts, struggling to maintain its form. His mask flickers between metal, bone, cosmic matter, and something intangible, an expression shifting across infinite versions of Doom, all screaming in unison. He looks down at Namor with a rage so primordial it burns straight through reality. "You ignorant creature," he snarls, voice shaking the broken sky. You have doomed far more than me. Namor's jaw clenches, but he cannot look away, because he knows doom is right. Reed runs to Sue, grabbing her shoulders. Are you hurt? She shakes her head, eyes fixed on Doom. It was the hesitation, she whispers. He was listening. He was changing. He was slipping. And Namor, Reed pulls her into his arms as another quake rumbles across the battlefield. Jean, still hovering weakly, closes her eyes as she senses the fracturing timelines. Reed, she says, voice trembling, it's not just our Earth. I can feel them, all the branches, all the alternate selves. They're collapsing into each other. If we don't stabilize the core soon, the multiverse is going to merge into a singular existential collapse. Wong limps forward, coughing blood, hands glowing faintly with the remnants of ruined spells. There is no magic capable of repairing this, he says, dread heavy in his voice. Not without Doom's control. That machine he built, it responds only to him. The Guardians gather together in a stumbling cluster. Rocket stares at the engine with trembling paws. I can't fix that, he mutters, fear gripping his voice. I don't even know what half of that thing is supposed to be. Groot rests a massive hand on Rocket's back, but even his comforting presence feels small here. Captain Marvel streaks back into the battlefield, body coated in glowing cracks. She lands hard, looking from the core to Doom. He's losing control of his power. If he dies, the multiverse tears apart with him. Thor slams Stormbreaker into the ground to steady himself. Then we must force him to restore balance. That's not how this works, Reed says, shaking his head. He controlled the engine because he convinced it he deserved to. But now? Now it's feeding on him, ripping him apart because it thinks he's failing. Doom roars, clutching his splitting chest, fragments of his cosmic armor falling away in pieces of collapsed timelines, each chunk hitting the ground with the force of a meteor. His voice spirals through multiple planes. You do not understand. I was holding it together. I alone. He raises his hand, trying to force the core back into alignment. The rings obey for a moment, hesitating, vibrating, adjusting slightly. Then another crack splits across Doom's chest, and everything falls apart again. The sky explodes into alternating layers of day and night, flashing in rapid succession. Tidal waves of pure energy sweep across the battlefield, knocking heroes off their feet. Pieces of alternate worlds begin to rain from above, jungles, city blocks from future Earths, alien architecture, mechanical debris from universes ruled by machines. Sue pushes forward again. Victor, listen to me, she cries, voice breaking. You can still stop it. You still have control. Doom looks at her. Truly looks at her. For the first time since his transformation, his voice sounds like a man's, not a god's. Susan. I never meant for this, his hands tremble. She reaches out to him, invisible fields shimmering with every ounce of strength she has left. You can fix it, Victor, she whispers. Let us help you. Doom's gaze softens just a fraction. But then the final ring of the fractal engine collapses inward with a deafening crack. The multiversal core bursts into a swirl of chaotic energy, its once beautiful surface becoming jagged, unstable, dangerous. The force tears through Doom like a tidal wave. He screams, a sound that echoes through every collapsing world. Reality twists. Time fractures. The multiverse teeters on the brink. And Doom begins to fall.